Welcome back to the CSC Garage. In this episode, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to mount a backrest, front rack, and basket on your Monterey. It only takes a few simple tools, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is mounting the rack on the front. Using a Phillips screwdriver, I'm going to remove 1, 2, 3 fasteners. Let's go ahead and do that. Now we're going to use a rag just to protect the front fender, make things a little easier. Everything's going to be mounted loosely until all the fasteners are in place. We're going to start with the center spacer that comes with that kit and the long screw. It's got an 8mm head on it. So first we'll put the spacer in and then run the screw through the rack. You might not need all the fasteners that come with the kit. This one, I'm going to use a washer on this side of it. So let me grab one of those. Now that I have all my fasteners in place, I'll go ahead and tighten things down, starting with that 8mm head screw. Now we're ready to mount the basket. It comes with some hardware. A lot of this is just kind of a universal fitment. So however you can make it work, I'll show you the way that I like to mount it. But you'll have some washers, you'll have some bolts. I've mounted a couple of these and didn't need to use the washers. In fact, the bolts weren't quite long enough. But we'll see how this one goes. You will need a 10mm wrench. And the first thing I'm going to do is put down some tubing. And this is really more for vibration between the rack and the basket. Help eliminate that. So on down the road, you might need to change the position of this, or you might find a position that's better. What I like to do is put the 2 tubes on the outside edges of the rack. So we'll go ahead and put those covers over the rack. You could even cut that tubing and put it in different sections if you wanted. It tends to work pretty well like this. Now we're ready to mount the basket. We're going to put the basket with the widest part of the basket from the left to right side of the bike. And then we're using these 2 clamps. They're going to go on top and on top of the basket and on the bottom of the rack. We'll use our 2 screws and some nuts to get that mounted. And this one, I can already tell it's going to be a really tight fit with the length of those screws. So I'm only going to use the 2 screws and 2 nuts to mount that basket. Now we're ready to mount the backrest. You'll notice 1, 2, 3, 4 holes will line up with the holes in the rack. 1, 2, 3, 4. However, there might be some variance, and you'll notice if you look under this rack, the cable that releases the passenger pad actually has a little guide right here. You might be able to move that out of the way with the rack in place, but I'm going to show you how to remove this rack just to make it easier for us to work around that spot before we put the screws in. To remove the rack, we're simply going to remove 1, 2, 3 fasteners. There's screws in there. We're going to use a 12mm socket to do that. So this is the tab we want to get out of the way. It tends to cover the hole that one of our mounting fasteners is going to go to for the backrest. So I can just bend that out of the way. The backrest itself will end up serving as a guide to hold that cable back. If you're having a difficulty or you're wrestling this, you can remove the cable, or at least put some slack in it just by popping it out right here temporarily so we can get it mounted. Now that we've got that tab out of the way and it's not blocking the hole, I'm going to go ahead and remount the rack before I put the backrest on. You could mount the backrest with the rack off if it's easier for you. Just whatever works for you. I'm going to switch back over to my 8mm. And just like the front rack, we're going to leave everything kind of loose until we get all 4 fasteners in. Now we can simply put the passenger pad back in place. Thanks for joining us once again at the CSC Garage. I enjoyed showing you just how easy it is to mount the basket, front rack, and backrest to your Monterey. Be sure to stay tuned and check back in next time as we bring you more accessories, more upgrades, and more performance for your CSC vehicle. And until next time, enjoy the ride.